delay because of the first session. In this session, we will talk about dialogue Marmara and related risks, areas of development. I have three important speakers. In this session, our purpose is to just talk about the sectors in Marmara and their working mechanisms and inherited risks. And we'll talk about as well the opportunities. Their contribution to the region will be elaborated by distinguished panelists. And by the way, I'll just make it 2 rounds of questions. We have a total 60 minutes. In the first round, let's talk about the fundamental sectors. And in the second round, let's talk about their impact on the economy. First speaker would be Mr. Erkan Tüzgen. He is the General Secretary of Istanbul Development Agency. Erkan, you are the head of an institution who is working in the area of development. So could you please tell us the opportunities of Istanbul? What are your priorities? What would you say in this relationship in between development and as well the sectors? As Istanbul Development Agency, what we do is preparing a regional plan, and we work to be implemented. And there are 3 things that we do. The first thing is our own activities, and the second thing is the coordination work. For example, we can work together with municipalities and universities, and we can just put a bridge in between these two institutions. And the third part is that we support to the development projects. We just directly fund them. Since our foundation, by the way, we have given support in different areas and sectors, including sector and as well addiction, treatment of addiction, etc. So in the last 4 years, there are 4 principal areas, and now we focus on startup entrepreneurship. We would like to make Istanbul a city of entrepreneurs. So that's why we would like to provide everything that they might need. We would like to cover any gap related to the entrepreneurship. In the past, actually, we supported the establishment of the companies, and now we do support platforms, and as well we invest in the funds of entrepreneurs. And the second field that we work is the idea of innovative Istanbul, so that we can transform industry and Istanbul. We also actually do support green transformation and industrial transformation. We think that this is quite strategic, especially a green transformation can be part of the protection of the relationship with the EU. And also we have another actually headline of the creative industries, so that we can achieve value added actually contributions. So when you buy a technology product, we want it to say made in Turkey, made in Istanbul, instead of made in China. And finally, we would like to train kids. This is one of our priority. We would like to let them gain future capabilities and talents. So, of course, there are some horizontal intersections on this point, such as empowering the infrastructure and as well teaching the young generations to future capabilities. When we say future, what we think is that actually software engineering is one of the future professions. And it starts with, of course, software, and it continues with the technology and technology usage. And I think that all young people should be very familiar with the technology. So that's why we need different levels of software engineering. And I think that it is very similar to construction. You need people for all positions. You need high engineers, and as well you need workers. So as a country, we raise engineers. This is what we do. In the area of software, Sometimes, yes, we let engineers to do also the basic tasks. However, according to our new work plan, actually, we will manage to employ lower segment people. So we will just let young people to earn maybe 2 or 3 minimum wages. So I would like to just give you an example. Eco 42 is a school, and also we have launched a program together with the universities. Another example is a social impact bound. Well, it is a very innovative economic practice, very rare in the world, so you can even call it a financial instrument or a way of a contract. It's not actually implemented by our neighbors. Turkey is the first country on that regard who is implementing it, so that we would like to disseminate the education and a training model so that we can just have outcome-oriented mechanisms, and that would be really actually beneficial for our country. So in a nutshell, as Istanbul Development Agency, we would like to just position public sector as a startup, and we are searching for the answers of what we can do more and next, so that we would be more creative, and we will also look for new tasks. Thank you very much, Güven. Güven Sak from Turkey Political Investigations Association. Welcome. Well, Mr. Erkan has talked about the positioning of Istanbul, so my question for you would be, he's talking about the future, right? By the way, yes, that's true. However, it is a very positive wave, but there are some risks, of course, inherited by Istanbul itself. So my question for you would be, for a Turkish context, what is maybe the prevention or the risks in front of us when we think of the economy of the country? What type of problems would emerge, do you think? Well, the problems that the country is facing, exactly the same, the problems that Istanbul is facing. So I would say that there are principal problems, and these problems were already explained by the previous speakers. So in Turkey, actually, there are 2 separate discussions. One of them is the risk of earthquake and natural disasters, and as well urban transformation. And the second just theme is the green agenda, which is related to the climate change. And I would say that actually these 2 separate parts are just feeding one another and supporting one another. My distinguished colleague is going to talk about the supply chain later. However, I would say that the requirements of the green transformation, of course, it requires as well a financial transformation, and it requires funds, financial funds, so that all actors should be part of it. And we just think that it should approach to the local development. So we maybe need to just adopt an overview and should just think of what we can do more. In one of the morning session, they were talking about actually the models that are owned by World Bank and a French development agency. What all these international institutions, they desire to make countries to use their budgets and funds. However, there are some certain requirements, such as being carbon neutral or improving the waste management or being environment friendly. So these are the requirements of all these international agencies and platforms. And by the way, there is Green Deal that we are part of. It is impacting as well this digital transformation and green transformation. So that's why what I think is that we need a general perspective. In the morning, I was listening to the presidents. I think I listened to the mayor of Fatih municipality. So, he just has said that a top-down actual approach was needed. However, what I think is that we need a mental change. The change of mentality is required. This is what I think. because we have the agenda of climate change. It is actually on practice since the 70s, but we in reality focus on it in recent years, especially in the last 30 years. Hundreds, thousands of people were impacted by that. As you know, that also the people in western side of the world are just producing exactly the same product of the people of eastern world. So we have observed as well the international threats during the pandemic. It has impacted as well the whole supply chain. So when we think of this changing situation, I think that we need to just put the local development into the very center, and we should decide on what to do next. So yes, we need a mentality change, but we couldn't do it yet totally. From the 1st of October, carbon regulation was enacted since the 1st of October. 3 years ago, they promised on that. And there has been some consecutive changes since then. I would say that yes, it started, and we would see it as reflections very soon. We would see how it's going to impact us. We will see how it is being implemented. So yes, there might be like 3 countries that are impacted by the worst conditions. The first one is Russia, the second country is China, and the third country is Turkey. So it's really important to plan it as well while planning what we will do in Istanbul. I know that the hot topic for Istanbul is earthquake. Yes, we are talking about the urban transformation, but we also need to just think about the industry here, because we know that the half of the export comes from Istanbul, and as well the half of the national gross income comes from Istanbul. So Istanbul is quite dominant on that regard. Yes, of course, there has been some changes. For example, we see an activity in the eastern part of the country because of some incentives. However, it is still that Istanbul is quite dominant. Yes, there is a shift from Istanbul to the eastern Anatolia. It is, of course, caused by the very expensive actually life expenses, and as well maybe the expenses related to the human sources. However, these actually financial opportunities that could be used positively probably are being ignored. This is how I'm thinking. By the way, I'm just making this comment from a local perspective. So I think that we should be a little bit more organized, a little bit actually better organized, so that we can get the benefit of the international finance institutions. Very soon, I believe that there would be some restrictions and limitations. They would say to the banks that you have such a climate risk, so that this is the limit for you in terms of debting. So this is how the banks are going to distribute the loans afterwards. So I think that this is the very, very beginning of the whole process. I think that it is good because Turkey can really get benefit of this, and we can get benefit of this in the local level. If we have such a perspective of local development, then I think that we should be using all these usable sources. Thank you. Okay, now let's continue with the third speaker, Mr. Tuğrul Günal. He is the head of the Supply Chain Association. Mr. Tuğrul, you are very experienced in the sector. Mr. Güven has talked about the international risks. Yes, we are very open to that, and we know that supply chain really matters. This is what we have experienced actually during the pandemic. So my first question would be, what's supply chain and what's its importance? Could you please elaborate on this a little bit? Well, if you allow me, I'll just make a short presentation, please. So if you have questions, of course, I can receive the questions via the applications later. So here, let's just have a look at the presentation, please. It was discussed a lot. It was discussed actually throughout the day in the previous sessions. Everything is very uncertain and complex, ambiguous and volatile. We know this. So this is the world that we are living in terms of economy and in terms of geopolitics. I know that we have been in such an order. And what's the real situation? What's the reality in the world, worldwide? Here you would see a research of Deloitte. So here you would see that recently we face with a lot of operational risks and natural disasters and pandemic. And we have been all through this. We couldn't even go to the supermarket. We suffered because of the logistic gaps and the problems. We had cyber problems, financial problems. So that's why all the problems and uncertainties are quite facts and reals, and these are all proven in this research of Deloitte. So I would say that 1 out of 4 portion of all the companies just declared the cut of the supply chain. So it is quite a high number, I would say. These researches are very frequent. Another research from PricewaterhouseCoopers, they have also published an article, and here you would say the study in 2019 it was asked if there was any cuts in the last 5 years, and 69% of the participants had said yes. And in 2023 that same question was repeated, and the response rate was increased to 96%. So that we understand that all these crises are increasing very immensely every year, so that we should actually make our own risk plans in our companies, and we should do it also in the country level and a company level. So here you would see another page that is supporting it. Ernst & Young company has published this article. Do you know anything about the market value of a Fortune 500? It is $35 trillion of size. So no matter how big it is, of course, we are resistant to the crisis. This is real. This is a fact. However, actually, the average age of the companies just actually dropped from 61 years to the 18 years. And also 90% of all these companies just disappeared in the list in 1955. So I would say that these companies that are having the size of 35 trillions have just disappeared. So they no longer exist. So we understand that we need to obey the requirements of the markets. It can be about the portfolio of the company or human sources or risk management. No matter what it is, if you don't do it truly, then you can even be dropped from this list. So here you would see top 10 big companies of the world. Apple, its market value is 3 trillion, and then there comes Microsoft with 2.5 trillions. We see Borsa Istanbul Stock Exchange. There are 400 companies within it. So as to be actually globally resilient, we need to grow more. There should be 800 companies, and their value should be around the level of $1 trillion, so that we can compete in international markets. This is also the case for the countries. You would see the macro level countries and the companies. Yes, here, well, I would like to just share an information from a book in 2000s. Countries such as Bulgaria or Hungary, you would see that their GDP, well, some countries has reached really great levels, and here, well, we are on the segmentation of 8,000 to 10,000. What does it mean? In the case of an emergency or a crisis, unfortunately, we cannot support our people meaningfully because the GDP of the country is in parallel with the welfare of the country. This is just a proof for that. And here I need to just talk about we just need to just think about the turnovers of the companies. So we just purchase actually the products, we purchase semi-final products. It is impacting actually the turnover of the company. So it is like $50 million and it is contributing into the supply chain. And we just manage it with our partners.
Yapılan araştırma, evet. Hızlı geçiyorum. Biz Price...
So we as PricewaterhouseCoopers, I think it's been 6 years that we've been conducting questionnaires and surveys, and the participants said that our supply chain creates important added value to the company.
Bütçe planlamaya dahilim. Üret, satın al kararları.
So I'm involved in all these activities in strategy planning, but we are not present in the institutional risk planning. Well, you do a risk planning, you support your company up to 50% to market share, to customer satisfaction. You're directly responsible for it, but when it comes to risk planning, we're not included. These values need to improve, of course. So if I take care of 50% of it, then I need to be part of budget planning as well. So very quickly, you cannot help anybody that doesn't have an objective. So we need to have defined our objectives strategically at the very top level. So this is the output of an international consultancy company. In order to render my company more resilient, I need to set forth a strategy. This is why I've shared this slide with you. And the resilience of the supply chain is shown in this graph put forth by another consultancy company, which is Deloitte. So we need resilient companies, therefore we need resilient supply chains, and this is what they asked, and the answer was yes. So if we put these processes in place, we will become more resilient. That is what Deloitte says for this PricewaterhouseCoopers company. And this is something I've already shared with you in my first slide. What did I tell you? We need to set forth our strategy. This is a real life example. This is why it's covered here. We need to have defined the processes, the strategy. We manage the suppliers. So this is why we need to define the strategy of the supply chain and therefore the suppliers. So this is on paper, of course. Of course, we need to put this into action as well in consensus with all our partners. And we will follow this. We will follow up on this. So what is our strategy going to look like? We need to mature our supply chain and revise everything. I'm rushing through this, sorry for that. If you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them later on. This is our digital strategy or roadmap. What do we need to do when, what, in terms of digital strategy? Everything is here. I need to digitalize my supplier process, my purchase, my procurement, and at the bottom we have the person, because I'm working with people. I need to digitalize everything, and do my people have the digital maturity or literacy? If not, I need to provide training respectively. And these are the proficiencies when it comes to digital proficiency that are required. Okay, so everything has been backed up with trainings, etc. What was my company strategy? What was my supply chain strategy? What kind of strong muscles do I have in my human resources department? What muscles need to be further improved? What are the possibilities? All of this we have already set forth via the means of workshops, and then we will take action accordingly. This is again covered because this is a real-life example. And that was my last sentence. Thank you very much. I hand over the word to you. Thank you very much. We'll do 2 rounds of questions. You can continue if you like. So next question. How can you render the supply chain more flexible or more resilient? Thank you very much for this. I'm not going to take up much longer of your time. I'll be done in 5 minutes. Okay, so whatever we do, we have to do it in a sustainable fashion, because nothing is actualized overnight. This is Werner von Siemens, the founder of Siemens, founded back 125 years ago. And what he said is, I won't sell the future of my company for short-term profit. This is what he already said back in the day. This can be applied and extrapolated to all kinds of areas, to the management of a city, to infrastructure management, etc. You cannot make you cannot do as if investments and expenditures are required, then you have to spend the money. When we say sustainability, the first thing that comes to mind really is the environment, its carbon footprint, its wastewater management, and so on and so forth. But sustainability goes beyond that. Sustainability implies our ethical values. Sustainability implies the rule of law. It implies occupational health and safety. All of this is included in sustainability, and this is why we as a company have come with a impact report for the community. I also headed the Sustainability Commission at our company, and I can say that we have created added value. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but Siemens has come up with a added value map, which includes things like enhancing the economy, increasing skilled labor force, improvements and developments when it comes to innovation, and so on and so forth, as you can see on the slide. This is applicable to all kinds of departments at any company, including the accounting department. And this is why we have come with the Sustainability Turkey road map for the company. How can we further improve? How can we become carbon neutral? All of these topics had already been tackled and taken up. So the sustainability of the supply chain is an endeavor that stretches from A to Z. If you do not improve IT applications, if you don't have a roadmap, nothing works. Of course, you need to improve resiliency. There's much more to it, of course, than the time allocated to me allows me to speak about, but it includes human resources. There are certain criteria that apply. There are environmentally valid issues. There are governance-related issues as well that need to be tackled. So I've just mentioned IT, which brings me to this survey. 3.2 million SMEs are present currently in Turkey. The majority of our companies, enterprises, are SMEs, and TÜSİAD has a wonderful survey published on their website, which you can have access to. Unfortunately, not much resources are allocated to the improvement and development of SMEs. Maybe a company has its own IT department, but that's just a few. The majority doesn't even outsource IT personnel, but on a global scale, this is handled in an entirely different fashion. But in SMEs in Turkey, we see that slowly but surely they're trying to allocate resources to IT. This is a necessity if you want to become a global player or want to have a say in global affairs as well. So very quickly, risk management. Our suppliers, our customers, upstream and downstream, our own organizational scheme should focus on risk management. We have a different set of risks depending on the definition of what the needs are, what the definition of certain specifications are, and tenders, select vendors, who are going to be my vendors. These are important issues. I'm not going to go into the details, but you may have come across different lists if your maturity level is not on par with the requirements. And if you do not manage this adequately, you lose market share, you lose profit share, and so on and so forth. So another survey shows that only 34% of the participants in this survey use IT services for procurement. And what about the rest? How do you know whether, under which conditions you have procured certain services or products, etc.? You don't know. So there's a lack of maturity here. 80% claim that they have a specifically defined process in place, but you still don't know which vendor to go to, what services are procured, and so on and so forth. You don't have them defined. And if you don't define them, then the whole set of problems stretches from customer satisfaction all the way to loss of profit and so on and so forth. So you need to calculate the risk plan of your company, and then you can take actions accordingly. The same holds true for earthquake related issues or other disasters. During yet another crisis, we did another survey with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and the question asked was, does your company have a crisis intervention plan? Only 37% replied with a yes. This was back in 2021 during COVID. So only 30% roughly of the companies asked said that they are prepared for a crisis. And remind you, this is survey was performed during COVID. This was very quick. I'm aware of that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this very detailed presentation. This is important for crisis management, the supply chain, as you've mentioned. So I'd like to switch over to the urban dimension. We've seen to which degree the expectations of the private sector were met as well. So what I'm wondering here, and what I would ask you, is if you could give concrete examples. Thank you very much. Excuse me. So, as everybody is aware, Istanbul, statistically speaking, except for husbandry and agriculture, ranks first almost in any other sector, and economically is the main driver, etc. So I'm skipping all of this. As the development agency of Istanbul, we introduce innovative activities and make an effort to expand this nation wide. 10 years ago, roughly, the startup model was only known and present in Istanbul. But thanks to our projects, we have many startup initiatives, startup model initiatives in other cities such as Antep, Izmir, Ankara, and in other cities as well, the number of which is constantly increasing. So we find ourselves in an R&D position as well. We also paid or funded the foundation of digital transformation instruments and institutions close to the industry or further away from the industry, to universities such as Boğaziçi. So we've supported centers that could also work together with public authorities, and we have supported new ideas and new institutions as well. A similar project was funded under the auspices of MES as well. So just like we have supported cities and tried to draw them into the startup model, we started in the region of Marmara and little by little included other cities as well. The recent project we engaged in was co-conducted with the development agency of Marmara, with different development agencies in fact. And from now on, we would like to further expand such endeavors in other industrially developed cities and regions in Turkey, but we pay special emphasis not only on digital transformation but on green transformation as well, because there are only a few people and institutions that can support and consult on the issue of green transformation. There is a lack of consultancy services in that regard. Our Ministry of the Industry, so the central authority, wants to render energy greener, and we've benefited from their great support up until now. They have initiated twice as much investment endeavors up until now. I've talked about good examples so far, but I'd like to mention one particular risk and then come to a close. The main incentive that led to the fact that we engaged in these endeavors were the European directives. Of course, it has an international and universal dimension to it, but it is also for the good of European citizens and European companies. It aims to mitigate the competitive disadvantage of European companies. This is why these rules and regulations and directives are put forth, and we try to harmonize them. Yes, the ministry invests greatly in green energy and other areas. And let me give you a quick example. If a company in Europe wants to engage in green energy, they don't look at how much solar panels they have on the roof, for example. So it's just the direct engagement. If a company, for example, has rooftop solar panel appliances, it does not exempt them from carbon taxes. This is a very important issue that we need to take into consideration. We need to harmonize European Union directives more and extrapolate them to our own domestic law. This is all I have to say. Thank you very much. Thank you for this wonderful summary, because it sheds light on future possible models in Turkey. Coming now to the national scale, taking it up from where Mr. Erkam left off. We're talking about the introduction of the manufacturing industry into green capital and green economy, which brings about a lot of opportunities as well as risks. So, what kind of opportunities do arise from this for the rest of the country? Do you think that the current socio-economic composition of the country is apt in welcoming this transformation? When you make the comparison between Istanbul and other parts of the country, you have the following picture. Istanbul is a location that has the necessary skills set to manufacture almost anything. And it's matured enough, so we need to take a look and find another location that can take up this role or alleviate the burden of Istanbul a little bit. And living in Istanbul is costly, and we already see that there is a shift of added value towards the east. If we have more added valued manufacturing or production, this will ebb the way for more innovative methodologies, processes, and modes of production. We always pretend as if we were saving the world, but what we're merely doing is to hop on the bandwagon of technological advancements, which is led by the US, especially pertaining to their recent plans, coined inflation reduction, but it's really an industrial step forward. On the other hand, we have China, and in between we have Europe squished, which has difficulties allocating resources and funds. But it needs also capacities to try new technologies. This is why I strongly believe that Turkey and Europe should strongly engage in a win-win collaboration pertaining to the industry in particular. We have transformed into a differentiated industrial country as of the 80s of last century, and we're now engaged in this industrial race. And I believe that Turkey can open a potential for Europe to further engage in this industrial race. So a win-win situation could emerge from a potential collaboration, and we need to further explore potential and opportunities that are embedded in this collaborative affair. Let's think about a second Marmara region. What about connectivity in other areas of Anatolia towards the east, or from Sinop in the north down to Mersin in the south? How can the industrial infrastructure be further strengthened? We need to ensure that this shift, happens. Istanbul should no longer be the center. And disasters and the earthquake factor into exactly this point I was alluding to. For example, the recent incidents of mucilage showed us once again how packed and dense the Marmara region is. If you take a look at the Marmara Sea, you will see that 60% of the industrial production in Turkey are generated from the cities, from 7 cities that are settled and located on the southern corner, on the southern half of the Marmara Sea, plus Istanbul. So the earthquake will happen, that's a fact. And we may need to make sure that a regular shift happens. Something is pushing, but on the other hand side, something needs to pull as well, so that it's balanced and regular. We need to come up with a business plan and ask ourselves, who live in Istanbul, what can be done. So digitalization is one of those tools that we could apply or deploy. So how can we further enhance the potential of Istanbul in this race? What role can Istanbul play in this race? This is what we need to think about. I'm sure it's also true for Europeans. There is a place where more apt people live, and we are below that. And they will generate more profit, more income. And they are also in a position to implement new technologies. So in this region, there is no other country like Turkey that has undergone this transformation, and that is also close to Europe. So we should really make good use of our potential and opportunities. I believe this is what Turkey needs. And we do need to make the necessary prep work for risk and disaster management, plus the necessary green investments, including buildings and so on and so forth, that has to run in parallel. We need to think about this now, so that financing and funds can be deployed and allocated quicker. How can we attract this green capital in a better way? Through certain banks, for example. We need to improve it in what with capacity.
I am in the same. So my question is also, where should we have the new Istanbul and new Marmara? So for both of these, we could have separate sessions, because it's very important. All parties can get together, and yes. Thank you so much for your answers. I want to open the question and answer round after this beautiful presentations and discussions here. I want to add something. Yes, in the West, it is expected that Turkey should come and build together. But 70% of our industry is a out of mode, out of fashion technology, so rather old technology. So therefore, we need direct investment. And how does direct investors come to the Turkey? They need, of course, trust. So we need continuous and sustainable economical policies to give trust to Europe. So this is the same question I always ask. Why should the West go 10,000 kilometers and make hundreds of thousands of euros of investment there? Because we are only 2,500 kilometers away. So the investment was always, we were always expecting a huge investment, and we lost 20, 25 years now. We need to give in trust, because your company, if you are investing in Turkey as a company, of course you are looking for trust in the economical system. Spain pulls 30 million of foreign investment, direct investment, and we are 1/6 of that. And Brazil, Argentina has more direct investment from abroad. So why is the question? And if we answer truthfully, then we will be able to find the answers. Thank you so much. Yes, that is correct. The reason why we went back to the economical, yes, we have a problem in the macroeconomics, but we also see how the FDI went back to zero, so no foreign direct investment. It decreases and decreases. And the green transformation is a transformation which is very capital intense. So as long as the CDS premiums are on this level, Turkey, this will be very expensive for Turkey. And I'm sorry, the sound is really bad. We are trying to understand, to translate. If we miss this opportunity, that would be bad, because among these opportunity is the question, should we de-risk our relationship with China, and all of the given decisions can be changed. If we don't do this now, and what I mean by now is in the next 2 years, then we will regret it deeply. Yes, the West expects trust, and underneath this trust you have to have foundations like democracy and human rights. Yes, trust is a term which has to be defined. Yes, democratic rights. So, of course, you need justice to have capital here. And other risk will be also sent back. So that also counts for earthquake. So if there are no further questions, we can close the session. Thank you so much for your participation.